Hi, listeners. In this podcast, my sister and I talk about our experiences with both Asian and Western cultures. For more information and updates, find us on Instagram at Mixing Cultures Podcast. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Sally.
And I'm Sophia. And welcome to our podcast.
So today, it's going to be our first episode of when we actually dive into one of our topics. As we've seen before, the previous episode was just us giving an introduction about what the podcast was like.
Yeah, so first, please excuse if I keep taking water breaks. I'm still getting over a cold, and my throat decides to dry out every 2 seconds I talk. So this very first episode, we're going to be talking about when we first went to Canada, officially went to Canada.
Yeah, so that's when I was around 4 years old.
I don't know if Sally remembers anything the first time we went.
I think because I was so young, all my memories are kind of like mushed together. So I can't tell if these memories even are real, I think, at that point, because I was just so young.
That's true. What I remember is when we first got on the plane and while we were flying on the plane, even before we landed, the plane wasn't full, I remember, because Mom and you and I were sitting, 3 of us all together. Because you were so young and you kept wanting to sleep, Mom would try to put you on the bottom of the floor where the 3
I
seats
remember that.
are. Because back then, airplanes would still give you blankets on really long flights, right? So she'd take one blanket, put it down. She'd get the pillow and lay you down and put you on top. And we'd just kind of put our feet in the middle seat. Because you were taking over our floor space. You were so small. Even though you were 4, you were still really small for 4 years old.
I think even now, but I am small for my age group, you would say. After
we got off the flight, I remember it was just Mom, because Mom was young too, if you think about it. She was only 34, 35.
She was 33, 34, yeah.
Yeah. So she had me in one hand, you in the other hand, and we only came with, I think, 2 big suitcases and maybe 2 hand carries, and that was it.
Yeah, because it would have to be enough where only Mom could carry all the luggage.
But then if you think about it, Mom was so young and she just decided completely out of the blue, I need my kids to have a better future. I need them to know English and to be able to have that extra stepping stone into succeeding in life. It was so short too. In a span of less than a year, she had gotten everything ready for us to move. And we stayed in a homestay as well, our first couple days.
I remember when she would tell us stories about this, obviously now when we're older, she said she sold a lot of her stuff to get the financial ability to even come here. I think she sold her car and stuff like that just to be able to buy the tickets to come.
I think she had a small little, a yellow Beetle kind of car, from what I can remember. And Mom had just started learning, officially, how to drive, again, after she had you. We stayed in a homestay, kind of. We stayed at someone else's house for, a first few days while we were looking for a place to live. And the place that we went to live is probably the biggest impression of Canada I have in my life. For the entire, 12 years in total we lived there. That first apartment it has the biggest impact on my life because it was just a 1-bedroom apartment.
I remember. I had to remember if that 1-bedroom was the first place we ever lived in.
I think that was the first official place that we stayed long-term wise.
Yeah.
That was the one with the balcony. And we would have a neighbor next door. Yeah, he's retired. He was a retired lawyer then. But then when we first moved in, the reason we had such a good impression of Canada was because of him, I feel like.
Yeah, so he lived obviously in the same building. He was living in a 1-bedroom apartment. And what he told us later on is that he did have children and grandchildren, but they never actually came to visit him throughout the years that he's been living there.
Because they were busy.
So when we moved beside him, we kind of took the artificial spot of his grandchildren. And he saw that we were struggling and we lived with only one parent. So a lot of the times he would, bring over food that he's cooked for us. And he made sure when we celebrate like Christmas and stuff, he always gave us very full stockings. So I think he projected his love for his grandchildren onto us because we were the next people in his life.
Yeah, and he was so sweet. I remember, I don't know if you remember, but he was the first time he took us to the movie theater was to watch Harry Potter and I can't remember in Canada if it's called the Philosopher's Stone or the Sorcerer's Stone, but that was the first movie he took us to watch. I remember after that, and then we all went to McDonald's at night, and then we had like those little baby French fries and stuff like that. I remember.
I still remember that movie has traumatized me for life. No 4-year-old should see a man who has a turban, he takes his thing off, and then there's a face behind his face. That was the most traumatizing thing. I cannot watch the first movie of Harry Potter, even now, because that scene has traumatized me for life.
I mean, it's not a pretty scene, to be honest, but...
No.
But just being able to go to a movie theater and see... Like, he introduced us to so many things, and I'm always grateful that we had him as our first neighbor to really, really introduce us to Canada.
Like, he was so full of hospitality and generosity. Like, I still remember if he would ask us, like, oh, what do you want to eat this weekend? And I think his macaroni casserole. I think that was my favorite dish that he's ever made.
I think it was like a beef casserole.
He made a full casserole pan that was baked in the oven, and he would give it to our mom and say, oh, this is what Sally wanted. And he would do that so frequently.
And Mom would be like, excuse me, Sally, why would you go to your neighbor's house and say you want to eat this, you want to eat that?
He asked me a question, and I just answered. Kids don't know that kind of social cues. If you ask a kid what they want, they're going to just tell you what they want.
When Mom used to make, like, strawberry smoothies and stuff, we'd always used to bring a glass over to his house.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember. And we tried to give as much as we could. Even though we didn't have the capacity, we obviously received a lot more. But I think we still tried our best to show our appreciation for his generosity.
We got him, like, crazy in love with kimchi, though.
Yes, I think we got him onto Korean food, too. Like, I remember we met him a long time after that, after we moved. Yeah, and we made him, like, the kimchi pancakes and stuff, and he, like, loved it.
Even though he used to live far, and he was already retired when we met him, and he was quite old even after we moved, but if we invited him, he would still come. I don't know if you remember, there used to be a church up the hill of where we used to live. There used to be a church on the top of a hill, and they would have, like, flea market things on the weekend. And
no, I don't remember.
I don't know if you remember. The first time we went, Mom bought you it's like a handmade long yellow bear with long limbs and long legs. And it was a yellow bear. It looked like it was crocheted with black eyes. And that was like your first doll that you got in Canada. And you'd have it, like, always with you.
I don't remember.
That's the first thing Mom bought you from that flea market was that yellow bear with, like, the black eyes. I remember.
I only remember my Pillsbury Doughboy doll.
You were obsessed with that Pillsbury Doughboy.
I ruined it. I thought it would look cuter with its chef hat cut off, so I cut it off with scissors and it just looked like a bald man, like Mr. Clean, and I just cried. Yes, it was my fault. Okay, so because Sophia has more memories of coming to Canada than I do, how much English did you know before you came to Canada? Because I knew nothing.
How much English did I knew? What kind of English is that?
Let me say it again. how much English did you know
I knew
before
very
you came to
little
Canada?
English, but I did know some. Just because mom thought I had to go to this English kind of kindergarten-y kind of thing in Korea. So I wasn't terrified of seeing Caucasians when I first went to Canada because I have seen them before. That's another thing because Caucasians look so
Yeah.
they're vastly like taller and the builds are completely different. So a lot of Asians when they first go,
like the bone structure
they're a
is
bit
completely
shocked
different.
at the stature of Caucasians. But I wasn't scared about that. But the English I knew was very limited to what I knew from school. I didn't know any daily conversational English. No, it wasn't applicable at all.
Which is never applicable.
But you knew none because you were 4. Yeah. No.
Yes, I didn't even know Korean,
zero
so
language.
I had no language. I was a nomad. I was a nomad coming to Canada. Okay, so since we've integrated now, coming to school, do you think you sensed any discrimination while you were younger? Because let's put into perspective, the first place we moved to in Canada was very heavily Caucasian population.
Also because when we left Korea, that was like the boom of people wanting to start going overseas to study. So unless you were like second generation, like Asian Americans in Canada, there weren't a lot of people that had just immigrated when we had gone because it was still like early 2000, right?
Very early 2000s.
Yeah, very early 2000s. So if I go, I'll see there was one other Korean girl who's my best friend. And there's a Chinese boy, but he's like second generation Chinese, I think. In my head, he is. So basically, if there was like 20 people in the classroom, maybe like 2 or 3 people might be Asian.
Because I think for me, in my class, I think I first went to kindergarten, I think, when I went to Canada. I think there
Preschool.
Preschool. I think there was none.
No, I think in your class there was none.
Yeah, there was none, I think. And I went to both like the morning and the afternoon class, and I don't think there were any.
You struggled more than I did, though.
Yeah, because I'm first put into an environment with new people I've never seen, speaking a language I don't understand, doing stuff I don't understand. But mom did say my confidence was always higher in my afternoon classes because everything we learned in the morning class, we would repeat in the afternoon class. So I was becoming kind of like a professional kid in the afternoon classes. But it was still always difficult to go to the morning class because I knew there was that intimidation and there was that language and cultural barrier.
Mom is always sad, though, when she talks about your time in preschool because she would always remember this little baby that, because you would see the morning kids, right? You'd have class with the morning kids, and then the morning kids go home, typically during lunch.
Yeah, because it's a half-day class, yeah.
So you would get all excited to think that you're going home, and mom doesn't show up.
And I never go home.
And the teacher tells you to eat and then go to the next class, which is in the afternoon. And the first year or 6 months, so the first semester, it was like that. And mom like used to pick you up from the afternoon, and you used to be like so happy when you're going home. But then, I think after the second semester, when you started to understand a bit more English, mom just gave you the morning class, which is half the class.
It was after she put me in summer camp. So she said once I went to summer camp, typically, all the kids play together in the morning and then their parents come pick them up. So like preschool, I thought, oh, mom's not going to come. I probably have an afternoon class. So I was just sitting, she said, playing with my little macaroni face that I made in the craft section. And the mom would be calling me saying we'd go home. And I was like, oh, I get to go home with all the other kids? And I think that's when I felt like I belonged more in that kind of environment. Yeah. And that's when my English started booming. And I was starting to understand and interact with the other kids.
To be fair, mom completely immersed you in class for like the entire day so you could pick up the language
Faster. Yeah.
Because when we were at home, we would be only speaking Korean. We don't speak any English. Yeah, and also when we're in school. So that's it. Yeah. But then I remember you couldn't speak any English at all. And then mom, one day you just came home and mom said something in Korean. And then you're like, why? And then mom was so shocked because you had replied in English instead of Korean.
Yeah. And then kind of my first phrase I ever said was, hey, look.
Yeah.
Because that's something you say a lot in preschool, right? You go like, oh, hey, look.
Yeah.
And that was my first sentence. I know it's 2 words, but it's still my first sentence.
Yeah, but then after you said that, your confidence and your school life became much better.
Yeah, I think after that hump, I didn't have much of a problem after that.
Because I remember struggling a lot in the first elementary year. But then after a few months in, one day when the teacher spoke in English to me, I suddenly heard it in my brain in Korean.
Like you understood completely.
So I finally clicked in a way that I could understand her sentence fully. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, I wasn't struggling so much trying to keep up and understand.
Yeah. I guess that's the difference between us. I went officially to elementary school knowing English completely. But you went in knowing just a bit to get through and then learning more throughout.
Because I was in ESL.
Yeah. Yeah. So ESL just stands for English Second Language.
Second Language.
Yeah.
I was going to add one more thing to our podcast today because I thought it'd be quite funny and a lot of Asian people could relate.
Uh-oh. I don't know what this is.
So, I'm sure you know what it is. So now if you're Asian, you know, when you have school, you have homework. But schoolwork is not homework. We have also additional homework at home is homework. So all you Asian kids out there, like, even when we first went to Canada and then we go to school, come home, we do our homework, my mom gave us like extra Kumon stuff that she brought back from Korea.
Oh, those math booklets.
We do extra math, and then I'd have to do extra like Korean.
I remember I had to do extra Korean, and then I did so bad. I think mom gave up on me after like a year. Because I could speak it and read it, but I couldn't write it because I didn't understand the grammar and the spelling. That was the hardest thing. I still have trouble with that now, but I think that was the main reason why I gave up learning Korean.
Honestly, I feel like if you just went to Korea and asked people to start writing these sentences down, they would still be confused.
Yeah.
No. Because I still don't understand where to space in between when I write Korean. I just put a space where I think I'm going to breathe. And that's
because it's not like how English, in between every word you space, it's not like that. Sometimes you can combine the nouns and the verbs together. Like, it's a lot of rules.
It's a phrase thing.
Yeah, like, I still don't understand. Even if we asked our mom now, she probably wouldn't understand how to do some of them. No. So it's just very complex.
As long as we're not writing an official document and we're just, like, talking to each other or texting each other, I don't think it really matters. In the end, you'll get what we're saying.
Yeah. Like, I think the most annoying thing is Korean is mostly phonetics. If you know the sound of one character and the other sound of the other character, you can put it together and know what that word would sound like. But multiple different combinations can sound the same. And depending on the context, you use different variations of those characters. So that thing is the hardest thing. Because if you pronounce the word dog and crab, they sound the same. But their characters are spelled differently.
But in Korea, the same character can mean a boat, a pear, and a stomach.
Yeah.
And it's spelled exactly the same.
But they do mean different stuff.
Yeah. And Korea has so much, like, adjectives.
Yeah.
When you want to describe, especially food, when you're describing food.
Yeah, there's a lot. And rain. You have words for every different type of rain you could possibly think of.
If you just say an onomatopoeia in Korean, it will be a word that describes something.
Yeah, like, it's just such a diverse language with just simple characters. It's amazing.
That's true.
It's very difficult, but it's amazing.
But look at us again. We went off topic again. We cannot stay on one topic, it seems.
It's
Forever
okay.
off topic. But then, so that was our basic childhood of when we first started and how we kind of dipped our toe into English.
Mm-hmm.
But then, because we moved around so much, I guess the next episode we're going to be talking about, I feel like we're going to talk about one topic in general next semester. Next
semester. I am not going back to school.
Next episode. Is there anything in particular that you wanted to talk about next episode?
I was thinking about all of our travels, the different cultures we've experienced.
Maybe, yeah.
Because going in chronological order, we first talked about when we first came to Canada. And then we've now been exposed to Western culture, but we've also been exposed to other cultures throughout the line. So I thought it'd be good to just go through an overall timeline of what we've gone through.
Yeah. So rather than just continuing our story about Canada, I think we might give a general, timeline of what countries we've been to.
Yeah.
That would probably take up 20 minutes, though, to be honest. So if you want to find out how much we had to pack our bags and move around, stick around for the next episode.
We have very good zipper moving fingers. We can zip and unzip suitcases very well.
Yeah, but if you're interested, stick around for the next episode. We'll probably give a more detailed explanation of why we're so culturally mixed.
And we plan on releasing episodes on Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can use Google to see what time zone that is for you. But that's when we plan on releasing our episodes. Right now, every week.
Every week for now. And then if we start to pick things up and we're able, and we really decide we want to really pursue this podcast, then we'll probably discuss it and then decide if we want to crank up more episodes per week or if we're just okay with doing one a week for now.
Yep.
But make sure you follow our Instagram at Mixed Cultures Podcast. We're going to be updating every time we upload an episode. And now we're on Spotify.
I know, yeah. Now you can find us on Spotify, which is probably more accessible to everyone else. Same thing, if you can find us, you can find us on Spotify at Mixing Cultures.
Yeah, so everyone enjoy the rest of your day or night. Have a lovely morning, afternoon, or nighttime, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, guys.